I was sound asleep when suddenly, I was abducted and dragged harshly out of my bed by soldiers. They dragged me down to the living room, where my eyes landed on my older brother Jabari. A flood of relief went through my trembling form, but not until I saw the lifeless bodies of my own parents. I stood there petrified at the scene in front of me. A pool of crimson surrounded my parents' bodies from the amount of bullet wounds the soldiers have caused them. My parents are gone. They're not here to comfort me or dry my tears when I'm afraid, like now when I can taste my salty tears that came to singing down my cheeks. My skin urges the touch of my mother's thumbs to wipe away my tears, and her soft voice that never fails to soothe me at this moment. I tried my best holding in my sobs, aware of the consequences. Jabari also attempted to do so, but failed by releasing a muffled sob. Unfortunately, the rebel heard him and told him, "You shouldn't give pity to anyone you kill. If you do, we will kill you," the soldier threatened my brother. I looked at Jabari, seeing a gun in front of him. Jabari killed our parents? That's impossible. He loves our parents unconditionally. The soldiers must have forced him to shoot our parents. Anger boils in me at the thought. "If you don't obey our commands, you will turn out like them," one of the soldiers pointed at our parents. Jabari and I nodded obediently before the rebels pulled us up from our knees and started pushing us out forcefully. I took one last glance at my once alive and content parents, who lay soundlessly dead below the red-tainted floor. "I love you," I whispered in a silent tone towards the parents that raised me and loved me, as tears stinged my eyes. When we are taken outside, I find lines of child soldiers each given army uniforms by turns. They are then taken outside of the village, headed to Cassis, I'm assuming. One of the soldiers assigns me and Jabari to go to one of the various lines. As I glance around the atmosphere, I recognize Naru and Navu, my cousins, who are next to the line Jabari and I are in. Naru sensed me looking at her, causing us to give each other eye contact. I give her a small smile, which she sends me back, except a forced one. I think my uncle and aunt, her parents, died too. A sense of pittiness courses through my body for Naru and Davu, as I know too how it feels like witnessing and losing your parents in front of you. A tall, bulky soldier brings my attention back to reality as he gives me an armed gun along with uniform and tells me to follow the moving line trailing outside Katsinguro, which is the village I live in. I look for Jabari and find him talking to our cousins. I join him and hug him tightly while telling him I was glad he's alright and that I love him so much. He hugs me back tightly, saying the same thing, except he said he's going to look after me more after what happened to our parents. I then embraced Nuru and Davu into my arms, also saying I'm glad they're alright and uninjured. I told them what happened and they could relate to the same event that happened to them also. I told them that all that matters is that we have each other. We started walking together in a line with the others, traveling towards the village Cassis. In 2 hours, we arrived to Cassis with the others. My feet are throbbing with pain, and my legs ache from the long walk we took, but I ignore it, knowing it could get worse. We are ordered to change behind the bushes and leave our clothes burn in the fire after we are done. I go to an empty bush and change behind it. Once I'm done, I walk near an ignited and warm fire and toss my clothes in with the other discarded articles of clothing. I wait for Jabari and my cousins until they're finished. We are then ordered from the same soldier as before to get in the line where he pointed near the tents, to get assigned a job. We line up after one another together and wait until we are assigned a role. After a few minutes of waiting, I'm assigned to carry ammunition near a large tree where we would arm our guns tomorrow. That was a hard job for me, knowing I'm not strong enough to carry the heavy loads of ammunition. But I don't protest and obligate anyways. Unfortunately, Jabari is assigned a spy, which I'm utterly worried since it's a dangerous task for him to go through, because of the possibilities of him getting shot or hurt. Daru was assigned as bodyguard to look out for the area we're in. Naru was assigned the same task as I, except she had to carry and bring food. Fortunately, we don't do our task until tomorrow, as the chief said. I went to my brother and told him to change his job because I needed him with me. He even promised me to look after me more. "Amara, you have to understand that around here, we must follow the orders they give us or we might even get killed or hurt." "I'm sorry, but I'll think of something, alright?" I nodded, comprehending him. I embraced him tightly, hoping there's a way we can stay together. Later that day, the chief ordered us to go to sleep early because tomorrow is our tasks and training. I followed Jabari and my cousins to an empty tent by the bushes and stay there for the night. We tell each other good night and go to sleep. I lay near my brother, closing my eyes, hoping sleep would come, but none does. My stomach begins growling and everyone laughs, lightening up the mood. The sound of crickets puts me to sleep after a long minutes of awakeness. I wake up startled at the sound of 2 gunshots, my breathing and heartbeat accelerating. Jabari and my cousins do so too, and we look at each other with wide eyes, seeing if any of us were hurt. Jabari looks out and says the gunshots were just fired so we could wake up and get prepared for today's task. I sigh in relief, placing my hand over my chest, glad it wasn't anything major. We first started training that day, learning how to target our enemies and how to prevent getting shot by them. After that, we started our assigned tasks. Jabari came to me and said he got an exchange from his job from another child soldier to bringing food. I was relieved that he exchanged his job where he was able to look after me and not get hurt. After carrying and walking towards the large tent with 2 large ammunition boxes, my arms ache and are tired. However, I had to get through the day by doing what I was told and continued carrying the heavy loaded boxes of ammunition. On my 5th carriage of ammunition, my arms and legs could not contain the heavy weight of the ammunition anymore, so they collapsed beneath the loaded box, causing me to fall. A girl a few inches taller than me went over to me rapidly and helped me return the sprawled ammunition back to the box and helped me carry it over to the tent. I gave her a smile and appreciation and continued carrying as much ammunition as I could during the day. We were then ordered to eat supper with the others. Jabari, Naru, Devu, and I sat near each other and began drinking the coconuts they provided us, along with cassava. The chief reminded us that tomorrow will be the day we will begin fighting against the rebels. I cringed at the thought that night of killing others. Luckily, I drifted off to sleep after a tiring and exhausting day. The same event occurred that morning like the other times. The 2 gunshots were heard. Because I was still not accustomed of those loud sounds, I jerked up awake from the sound. I looked to see if my brother or cousins were still in here with me, and they were. We looked at each other, knowing what we had to do today. Kill. When we got outside, a soldier ordered us to take some white capsules before getting our weapons. We did as told and swallowed them. Each of us were given an armed gun with a grenade and knife in our pockets and belts. When everyone walked out the village, we were told the rebels were arriving with a group of armed others. The chief jerked his arm down, indicating us to lay flat on the ground with our armed guns facing in front of us. We all laid quietly, waiting for the expected. Suddenly, I felt a bolt of energy surging through my veins, my adrenaline running through my veins, giving me energy to do something. When we heard the sound of hushed footsteps ahead of our way, I remember the chief telling us, imagine they were the ones who killed your loved ones, for no reason because they hate you. Kill them as if they were the ones who caused the pain to your family. That was when my whole self started to forget who I am and who I killed. When the chief gave us the signal to attack, I shot a young boy through his beating heart. I never stopped until we were done. At that moment, I released an uncontrollable sob. I just killed 9 young adolescents who probably didn't know what they were doing. I felt a pang of guilt, thinking they didn't deserve it since they've done nothing to my family. 2 weeks later, village after village, the guilt I felt faded away as the more drugs I took and the more people I threatened and killed. I got to the point I didn't care who I killed, as long as they were dead was that mattered. My brother and cousins also got addicted to drugs as I did, and did them when we weren't out there at war. After we were done dealing with the rebels, I saw a white van labeled UNICEF, and near the van I saw the 2 women in UNICEF shirts speaking with the chief. He held an unpleased expression on his face, while one of the 2 women was speaking. The chief was done nodding after the woman was done speaking. The chief called out Jabari, Daru, Nuru, and I to come over. We walked over, and that's when he ordered us to remove our weapons and drugs and get in the van. Did he not want us anymore? I enjoyed the feeling of taking someone's life, but that was over once I was finished what I was told and got in the van with my brother and cousins. Around me, I saw other child soldiers around the same age as me who held the same bored expression as I. The woman started introducing herself and began talking, but I ignored her. Right now, I crave the white capsules and brown, but I didn't have any, so I looked out the window and wandered off with my thoughts. When we arrived at the unknown place, the woman told us to get in and wait for them. "Where are we?" I asked Jabari. "I don't know, but it certainly looks cool." The UNICEF woman with brown hair came over me and my brother and smiled at us, telling us to follow her. I didn't trust her, but Jabari did, so I followed along. She led us to a room with bunk beds with other kids who I also assumed were soldiers. "Come by the hall if you need me, and if you're hungry, I'll be in the kitchen." She smiled and closed the door. For over 1 month, me and Jabari were violent and disobedient with the other staff and children. We'd get in fights and get in trouble, but we wouldn't care. I didn't trust any of the staff because they were all smiling around me. Because of the lack of drugs, I didn't have the energy to do anything with the other children. After 2 months, I got better. I got help from the staff by giving me pep talks about what I've done, and it was possible for me to become a better person than I was before. They told me the person I was not healthy for me, and it wasn't my fault. They also told me my parents wouldn't be pleased if I was violent and disobedient all the time. I didn't want to be the person I was before anymore. My parents didn't raise me to become a terrible person. I wanted them to be proud of me, so I took the opportunity of getting help and an education by UNICEF. My brother was also in this with me. We both changed into better persons and couldn't thank UNICEF enough for what they've done for us. I did this for my family and for myself.